Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first National Weather Association's Webinar Wednesday of 2019. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully those of you in the Midwest and eastern portion of the US are staying warm. And my name is Becca Mazer, and I am the chair of the Professional Development Committee and a newly elected board of the director. Thank you very much. And I will be your host for today's webinar. Stand by as I'm having communications issues. Figures. I'm getting feedback into my speaker here. Anyway, we'll just move on. Okay, today we have such a treat for you. We will be talking with our 2019 NWA President, Paul Schlatter, answering your questions about all things NWA, including this year's theme, tips for your careers, and anything else you would like to know. So to help us facilitate questions and discussion is member and former chair of the Social Media Committee, Trevor Boucher. Thank you for being here, Trevor. Okay, first things first, you can participate in the discussion on Twitter using @NWAS or the hashtag NWAWebWed. Also, you can send in your questions via the YouTube chat feature. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen. Go ahead and send those in, and we will go ahead and read them, and Paul will answer them for you. All right, Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself and provide a little introduction.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone out there. Obviously, it's me, Paul Schlatter. My day job, my normal day job is at the National Weather Service office in Boulder, Colorado. But I was elected president for the NWA for this year. Last year, I spent it as president-elect. That's kind of how we do it. We do president-elect to president, and then I get to be past president in 2020. And then Todd Laricos would be the president next year because we elected him the year before. So it's kind of a neat deal. Honored to be with the NWA. I'm actually a lifetime member of the NWA, which is, we can talk about that later, but it's a pretty cool deal, especially if you're on the younger side of your years. It makes financial sense, but it's also just a cool deal to just say you're a lifetime member, where my membership's never gonna go away until I go away. But happy to be on this webinar, and I'd love to hear some of the questions that we'll have today.
All right, so I'll ask right off the bat, what inspired you to get into the weather business, and what is your most memorable career moment?
Oh man, memorable career moment. But I'll start with the first one because that's a much easier question to answer right off the bat, and that's what inspired me to get into weather. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. Obviously, we get all kinds of weather, but I was fortunate enough to have my dad, who was also a meteorologist. He got his PhD from St. Louis U many, many years ago. Then he worked at NCAR in Boulder, and then worked at NOAA for about 35 years, right here in Boulder as well. In fact, in the same building that I'm in right now is where he retired. And so growing up, I had access to a true weather weenie. I mean, my dad and I totally share that passion. Even when I was a little kid, probably, I'd say 6, 7, 8 years old, one of the first memories I have related to meteorology was that my dad takes and took meticulous weather records from Boulder, Colorado. He started that in 1972 when he moved here. And we're talking, anytime there's a precipitation event, he would, note it down in a ledger, handwritten, perfect 8-point font that my dad has handwriting. So when he'd go out of town, he'd entrust me with taking notes on the meteorology, what happened. Obviously, I couldn't analyze the weather back then, but I could report the weather, and I measured the rain, and I measured the temperature rises and falls and all that kind of thing. And so the passion started really early for me right around then. And it just grew from then. I had access to a weather expert, in my house every afternoon, evening, and on the weekends, and he would just explain how the weather works. So I was a very fortunate kid growing up in Boulder with my dad as a meteorologist. So I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do from my earliest memories. That's the only thing I ever put on the question that you get at school. What do you want to be when you grow up? I always put meteorologist. I was one of those kids. Now, your second question, a little bit harder to think about. Was it what was it again, Beck, about career? The biggest risk I took, or what was it again?
Sorry, your most memorable career moment.
Oh, memorable. Let me answer that by just saying the biggest risk I took, because that's also probably my most memorable, because it kind of got me to where I am today. I think my biggest, the most memorable thing, which is also the biggest risk, was when I had a really good, I loved what I did in Norman, Oklahoma. I was a trainer with the National Weather Service Warning Decision Training Division, specializing in dual pole radar and issuing warnings using the radar and all types of high impact warnings. It was a dream because I was a radar geek to begin with. I was doing that for roughly 8 years, started my career, and I was loving it a lot, but I kept thinking maybe there's something else out there for me. Maybe there's something else I could be doing rather than only focusing on radar for the rest of my life in Norman, Oklahoma. So I think the biggest risk I took was there was a job opening in that Weather Service headquarters, working with the director of the National Weather Service for 1 year, and then I would be working with the NOAA administrator for a year as part of a 2-year detail. So the risk was packing up the family. My kids were 2 and 4 at the time, and then my wife had to switch jobs. Packed up the family, sold the house, and went to Washington, D.C. just to test out this new non-science related policy type job that I was doing with the director of the National Weather Service and then the NOAA administrator. So it was definitely a big risk, way outside of my comfort zone. I learned skills I never even knew I had. I knew exactly who I was after that particular rotation, just because everything's on display when you're working in that type of a job. But it was a great opportunity. I learned so much from it. And because of that, and because I spent 3 more years after that, I spent 5 total at headquarters. I was fortunate enough to make great connections across the Weather Service because of the job, and that helped me get the job I have now as the Science and Operations Officer in Boulder. So it ended up all working out just because I made that tough decision to pack up and totally change jobs in the Weather Service and go to headquarters. So that for me was definitely the most memorable.
And I think that's a really good point to bring up and to emphasize that in your careers, in our careers, we're all weather geeks. All of us, we got into the weather business because we love weather and we love helping people. But it's also really important in your career to take those risks, to seek out those opportunities, to try something different, because you never know who you're going to meet, who could help advance your career, what skills you're going to acquire. I feel that's super important for everyone to really key in on. I mean, I sort of did the same. I took a big risk and came up here to Alaska. Totally different. I didn't expect to ever be up here in Alaska, but it's been so far a really good decision for me, and I couldn't be happier. So I just wanted to emphasize that point that, for the membership out there, don't be afraid to take those risks and to try something different. So, coming from your NWA president, it's something really important to consider in your career. Anything else you want to add to finish up your introduction?
No, I think that was pretty good. Hopefully people got a sense that I'm a weather geek through and through, and that I'm really passionate about the NWA and what we stand for.
Yeah, and you love to talk about the weather in your job. You and I have had plenty of awesome conversations about all of the above. So at the annual meeting, everybody, seek Paul out and definitely chat him up. It's a fun experience. So, all right, next question. What is new in 2019 for the NWA?
I think one of the first things that's new is that last year, and all the members passed the new bylaws that kind of govern what the NWA does and how we do it. The average member out there probably won't notice too much of a difference, but the thing to take home about what could be different is that it's going to be operating our association in general is going to be operating much more efficiently under the new bylaws, because it's operating more like a business, which is kind of what we need to do, because there's money that comes into the association through dues and things like that, and just making sure that legally we're covered on all of our bases. And that's one of the things that the bylaws help set up. The other thing that's going to be new, that's all procedural, administrative. It's all good news on that end. The other thing that's going to be new is that each year we pick a theme for the year. And the cool thing about it is, one of the reasons I'm excited to be president is that I was able to pick the theme for this year. And then once you pick the theme, everyone kind of rallies around it, and especially in the committees, the board of directors, and then certainly by the time we get to the annual meeting, everything kind of flows into and out of whatever that theme is. And for this year, if you guys have read the president's message from January, been on our website recently, the theme is Pay It Forward, which was a really important mantra that I've kind of used throughout my career, and even in my personal life. Pay it forward has really been an important thing for me. And that can mean a lot of different things, which is good, because anytime you pick a theme, you want it to be broad enough that people can kind of branch off and figure out ways to make it fit what they're doing. For me, the reason I picked that, and the reason I try and live it out in my life, is the mentorship aspects of Pay It Forward. Throughout my life, starting with my dad, obviously, he's still a mentor, always was a mentor growing up, but I've had people like my dad in my life, usually work-related, that without whom I'm confident I would not be where I am today. It is through their guidance, their leadership. They always have the right thing to say, when to say it. They know how to either calm me down, build me up. That's what mentors do. And I've been so grateful to have, and fortunate to have, all those mentors in my life along the way, that I felt like, why can't everyone experience the same type of thing? Why can't everyone have a mentor or mentors? Or on the flip side, why can't everyone be a mentor for someone else? Because all of us have unique skills and capabilities that we can share with others. I don't care how old you are. You can be a mentor. You can be in your 20s and be a mentor to somebody. And I want that for everyone in our association, because I know how important it was for me to advance my career. And even becoming president of the NWA was because of a really close mentor and friend I had back in Norman. So I think that's the main element of Pay It Forward. And throughout the year, I hope you'll agree that the NWA kind of pushes in that general direction of paying it forward. Whether it's the awards process, because I mean, what better way to show someone you appreciate them than giving them an award? I mean, everyone loves getting awards, right? So that's a huge way to pay it forward. Becca is helping on the professional development committee look at ways to improve the mentoring program in the NWA, and so we'll have more coming out on that eventually. And I'm just really looking forward to all that's going to mean at the annual meeting, rallying around that theme of Pay It Forward. We're going to have some great special sessions, some really good keynote speakers related to that. So it's going to be really neat. And so I encourage you to really think about Pay It Forward in your life and finding a mentor or being that mentor. I think that's my hope for everyone that's on this call and across the NWA.
Just wanted to quickly interject here. You mentioned the mentoring program that we're spinning up in the NWA. So for all you members out there, that should be coming out in the next couple of months, and we are looking for new mentors. So just look for information on how you can become a mentor or a mentee down the road. So just be patient and stay tuned. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Paul, based off a couple of different answers you've had so far. One, regarding Pay It Forward, since you started talking about that, would you say your experience, especially the diversity, you mentioned taking that risk to go to DC and see things from a national perspective versus a local WFO or even just a science perspective. Would you say that's kind of helped you come up with this theme? Additionally, knowing that, hey, I'm at the national level and I can see where we can help from the top down and then also the bottom up to kind of bridge that gap. And then also from that, since you've now gone up the ranks in the NWA, have you part of the pay it forward is figuring out how you've been able to pay it forward in your career so far, both in the professional society realm and also in your career.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And here's why. In Norman, I was narrowly focused on being the best I could be at analyzing radar data. I mean, it's a noble cause, don't get me wrong, but it's also really highly specialized and highly focused. And I don't think I'm going on a limb by saying that a lot of meteorologists are that way. It's the nature of our business. I mean, some of us specialize in hurricane forecasting, for instance, satellite meteorology. I mean, we all have a specialty because that's just kind of the way our brains are wired. So when I took that risk and got to DC, absolutely, it broadened my horizons. I saw all the different ways that things fit together at that level that made the Weather Service operate the way that it does. And so it totally changed the way I looked at things. And then also I met so many people, because when you make a change like that and you're exposed to all different aspects of not just Weather Service, but NOAA as well, your network, your professional network increases exponentially in something like that. So I got to meet a lot of interesting people that helped, that transferred their knowledge and experience to me just because of the relationships we built. And I grew a deep appreciation for how important that professional network is. So yeah, absolutely. As I understood what it meant to have that network, to be a mentor, and to have mentors in my life, it all just kind of fit together with the pay it forward theme. That's the thing that popped into my mind the most when I was trying to reflect on how did I get where I was, or how did I get to where I am right now, and what people along the way helped me. I felt that pay it forward just kind of encompassed that whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that a question, it's not as if people aren't trying to help all the time, but having a theme focused on this is really good, I think, and key, because this also provides some examples. It gets people started to talk about how they can do that. And there's so many times where you're thinking, okay, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm trying to just stay afloat in my own profession. But how do I recognize some of the amazing work being done? And you had mentioned with awards, that's one way that you can do it. But maybe just another way is taking on a student, and like you said, being a mentor, showing them how the NWA can benefit their career, and then encouraging them to do these presentations. I know how many students that are not really comfortable doing that because they don't think that they've made it to the point that they can do these presentations. And we can change that conversation so that people know that they're welcome, and that they can be front and center within the NWA. And so I say all that to ask you another question about what are just a couple of easy ways that the membership can start to pay it forward? I mean, they can do it on their own and come up with their own ideas, but do you have any suggestions on maybe how they can do that?
Can I add a little follow-up to that question? It fits right in perfectly with what Trevor asked. I mean, recently government employees had to deal with the shutdown and the adversity that, we all felt because we were shut down, or sorry, the government was shut down. And how do we pay our bills? How do we just, live life normally during that level of adversity? How can you pay it forward to someone who is experiencing that adversity? I mean, it's not just specific to government employees, but even in all sectors of the weather enterprise, there are going to be times we feel stuck, or, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay, my rent next month? What are ways that we can sort of pay it forward to those folks who we recognize are dealing with adversity?
Yeah, that's all really good points. I go to my default answer here, and is that I'm trying not to plug it too much, but attend the NWA annual meeting. I know that sounds ridiculous because the theme is pay it forward. What can we do before then? But the thing that what really got me interested in the NWA, what first got my professional network up to where it was effective for helping me either advance my career or just learn new skills, honestly, was attending the National Weather Association annual meeting. That's September 7th through the 12th in Huntsville, Alabama, this time around in 2019. But I can't underscore how important how useful it was as a young career when I first attended, to just getting to know people, getting to know either NWA, other NWA members, either in my field of interest, National Weather Service, but also I learned so much from, in my network group, from broadcast meteorologists from the private sector, from academics that attended the annual meeting. That, just building that professional network will allow you to pay it forward, because then you're interacting with so many more people and understanding what their needs might be and understanding how they might be able to help you as well. And so it's just kind of you're linked together, trying to help each other out is the best way to put that, I think. In terms of, gosh, before the NWA annual meeting, you could pay it forward by encouraging others to join the NWA. I hope I'm not speaking off base by saying that, but I feel so strongly about the benefits to being a member of the NWA that I don't feel too bad about encouraging you to invite your friends to be NWA members, just because of how much you can get out of it, how much they would get out of it. That might be a good way to pay it forward.
Agreed.
If you've got, I'll mention awards again. The awards are a fantastic way to recognize somebody. So you can get started by thinking about who could I nominate for an award. Maybe you've got a professor, maybe you've got a colleague or someone that has mentored you. That all would be good candidates for a potential award.
Yeah, I feel like you hit on a key point that I hadn't thought of before, but it's excellent, is that even if you just go to the annual meeting, you physically being there and being available and approachable is one way to do it. I mean, how many times have you thought of, like, at your first conference where you've like, I don't know if I should talk to that person. I don't know if they really care about what I'm working on. And just physically being an ear to listen to somebody that's working on a project that would like to get your feedback. I mean, that right away might change somebody's entire viewpoint of how they encourage them, to move the direction that they're going, or think about things moving a different direction. So, like, I can't tell you how many times at my first NWA meeting, I was so shocked that people were even giving me their attention. And that was enough to make me want to go further. And then I can't tell you how many projects and ideas have come as a result of just physically being able to bounce things off my, my peers. So I think that was an excellent way of saying that that's an easy way, a very easy way to pay it forward.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. It's kind of a toughie. So what do you think the role of the meteorologist in the age of technology and apps? So what do you think is the role of the meteorologist during this age? Seems like everyone is a weather expert these days. What do you think about that?
Yes, the role of the meteorologist. Well, the good news is that even in 2019, AI, the numerical models, anything non-human that generates a forecast still can unbelievably bust. We had an event on Monday that was really rough for humans and models alike. The models were honestly useless. I can't remember an event when they were as useless as they were on Monday. Even the high res, it was a big snow event during rush hour, almost no use. Even if several hours out, it still didn't really hit on the intensity even close. So from that aspect, humans still have a role and will continue to have a role in just the forecast process itself. I'd feel strongly we can't automate things yet, at least in the short term. Long term, that's fine. But that's not where the impacts are for the most part. I think our role will continue to shift. It already has. It's been doing this for quite a while, but into decision support services, where we are interpreting the weather and helping people make the right decisions to protect lives and property, whatever it might be. And that's in the name of public safety. That's on the public weather side. Private sector meteorologists have a similar role, except they're doing it for clients in really specialized services. Humans are still going to be the ones that help deliver those services, because there's just something to that face-to-face or hearing a human voice forecast. You get a sense of how confident that person is in the information they're providing, or if they're really worried about something, you can sense it in their voice, you can see it on their faces. I think decision makers will continue to need that level of detail from the private sector, public sector, and then the research side of things. We're always going to need research and academia to come up with new ways of conveying that information, new ways of improving the forecasts themselves through models and through observations, whatever else is needed. So humans in this world now and in the next 10 years are still going to play a really important role. I mean, I don't get too upset about the fact that we're not messing with long-term forecasts much. I feel confident the private sector probably isn't touching the long-term forecasts much either. They're leaving it to the computers. But I think there's still a really strong role, even the short-term forecasting, and especially in how we deliver that information so that the right decisions are made.
Yeah, I totally agree in the fact that just the way humans present the information, our tone of voice, you know, just visual cues, even on like a video like this, video briefing like this, visual cues can really give the end user a you know, better sense of what to expect weather-wise. And I can't agree enough that humans will always be an integral part of the process. And I look forward to continuing to be part of it too, as I'm sure you both do. All right. Did you have anything to add, Trevor?
Yeah, actually, one thing, I'll just relay this from Janice, Paul. She had just tweeted on the NWA WebWed hashtag that submitting JOM articles are a way to pay it forward. Did you want to elaborate a little bit further on the Journal of Operational Meteorology?
Yeah, I mean, it's another great resource of what being a member of the NWA. I mean, you have instant access to those Journal of Operational Meteorology articles. And speaking from experience, actually, I've written fairly recent articles. Obviously, my previous job in Norman, I wrote several peer-reviewed articles. Gosh, it's just a good process and a good sense of accomplishment when you actually get one of these things published, because you're working with others. You're working with. I was working with people far smarter than I, and so it was fantastic getting to interact with them. And you knock it out and get it done, and then you get to share your findings with a whole audience. And I think it's so beneficial to NWA members because it's called the Journal of Operational Meteorology. It's focused on what we do day in and day out as an association in our jobs. So there a lot of good information can be gleaned from those articles. And so we would like people to send articles in and consider submitting papers to it more in the future. So yeah, that's certainly a way to pay it forward. It's a good process for all involved, the more papers we get.
Agreed, for sure. So I know a lot of members out there are probably pretty curious on how you got into your position as president, and perhaps how, you know, myself and Trevor, we got ourselves onto our various committees and into the governance of the National Weather Association. So I was wondering if you could go ahead and sort of explain the process to our membership.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. I mentioned a mentor I had in Norman, Oklahoma. It was Liz Quitone. She was NWA president several years ago. Unfortunately, passed away. Cancer got her. But way back in the day, she encouraged me to join the NWA. This was 13 years ago now. And then she saw potential in me. She might have been on council at the time, probably in the mid 2000s. And so she's like, Paul, I think you'd be great, you know, as a council member. We called it council there. It's board now, but we called it council back then. And also encouraged me to join at least one committee. So I joined the remote sensing committee back then. In general, the best way, I mean, the first step is obviously join the NWA, and then if you can, find a mentor, befriend a board member, befriend the chair of a council like Becca or Trevor. Those types of things are only going to help you because unfortunately it is about who you know. That's part, in professionally and personally, it's a lot about who you know. Then once you've got that going, joining a committee would be the next kind of logical step, because when we are looking for board members, they have to be a known quantity. People have to have worked with you, like on a committee. Chairing a committee would be awesome as well, just showing that you have experience working with other NWA members. And then after that, so once you're kind of known, people know who you are, you've volunteered your time in an awesome way with the NWA, then the next step to getting on the board would be either you show interest to a board member, another board member, or another way it happens is the board members themselves will seek out others. That's part of the role of being on the NWA board of directors is, and this is all about paying it forward. You're looking for the next people to be board members. I mean, you're grooming other board members throughout the process. I mean, that's how you keep the association going in a positive way. So that's so then someone would approach you, a board member would approach you and say, hey, you know, either I hear you're interested or we think you'd be fantastic for the board. That's how you, Becca, that's how we got you. We knew you'd be fantastic for it. You were a known quantity. You were on a committee. You were a chair of a committee. You've been a long time member of the NWA, and so we figured you'd be fantastic. So you get on the ballot, then you get elected. And that's kind of how the process works. But I would strongly encourage you, if you are looking to get more involved in the NWA, that joining a committee would be a really good first step for you.
And I will say that my experiences so far as being a part of a committee and committee chair, and I've only been on the board of directors now a whole month, but it has been an invaluable experience, not only, you know, honing my skills as a leader and just paying it forward and helping out the NWA in whatever way I can, bringing my skills to the table. It has also been great to meet everybody and, you know, become professional, you know, enhance your professional friendship or with your colleagues or your just relationship in general with your colleagues. It has been such a tremendous experience, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And so I highly encourage anybody who's interested out there in you know, joining a committee, look on the NWAS.org. Under the committee section, find the committee chair and send them an email. I mean, that's a great way to get started on joining a committee and moving on up the ranks, if that's, you know, what you're interested in. And then Paul, as you know, how did you know, what inspired you to become president? I'm not sure if you answered that question yet already, so just wanted to reemphasize it.
Yeah, I definitely missed that. I missed that. You asked it though. I just totally forgot to cover that part. Yeah, so it's not, so in general, and it's a wise nonprofit practice not to just pick someone off the street to be president. So obviously we typically look for people that had prior board of directors experience to be president, and maybe even vice president first type of thing. So I was a counselor, which is now board member, for 3 years, several years back. And then I became vice president, just again, because I think people saw how passionate I was about the NWA and wanting to make it a better place. And so I think that kind of got me back on the board as vice president. And then president, I mean, it's a volunteer job with a lot of work. So I'm not going to lie, there's plenty of work involved, but it's always worth it. And so I don't regret throwing my name in the hat for president. But in general, we have what's called a governance committee on the board of directors that identify potential presidential candidates each year. And so almost unanimously it occurs where the governance committee or whoever's making the slate of candidates will approach a potential presidential candidate. Because of the work involved, I mean, you could say, oh, you know, I would definitely want to be president this year, but for the most part, you're asked to be president or asked to run for president, that type of thing. But I'm excited to do it just because, again, this association has been such a key part of my career and my personal life. I mean, I've met lifelong friends like you, Becca, like Trevor, just because I went to the NWA Annual Meeting because I'm a member. I wouldn't trade that for anything. And I want everyone to have that same experience as members of the NWA. So that's why I'm super excited to be president this year and to try and push that forward. And allow everyone to hopefully feel the same way that I do about the association.
Hey, Paul, I wanted to come back just a second. You had mentioned about getting involved as a member and then as a committee member and all that. It's probably important because sometimes this is a little gray areas exactly how you do that, how do you get on a committee. So I recently went through this in the last few years, and as a chair, we've had to go through this process as well. So there actually is a little bit of formality to it. One of them is that you have to indicate your interest on either your when you sign up to be a member or when you renew your membership, there's an option usually at the bottom that you can indicate which committees you'd be interested in. When you do that, every time that a committee is selecting new people, they will go through the list of people who indicated that. And the process will then be to reach out with to all the people that indicated an interest to when a vacancy comes up. So it's not as simple as just, oh, I know this person, I'll ask and I'll be on a committee. You actually do have to formally say that you'd like to be on it when you do your membership renewal process. So so that's one of the ways to do that. And if you wanted to ask more questions about that, you can reach out to any one of us that's been a chair before, and we can show you how to do that. But keep an eye on your email if you do that, because they can come out any time during the year. And membership can, if somebody jumps out, then we need to fill that position, and that can happen at any point. But I do have one more question from me, actually, Paul. We heard that the annual meeting is going to be in Huntsville, Alabama. So what is it you're looking forward to the most with it being in Huntsville? Like what can we look forward to about Huntsville as a city?
Oh, that's a piece of cake, karaoke.
Oh, is that where they invented it?
No, I will do karaoke. I do it every time I go there. So
okay, we're holding you to that.
You guys will find me out there doing it. I don't know what song I'll do yet, but I will do one. I do it every year. Now, in terms of Huntsville, I'm really looking forward to the committee. The planning committee is looking at ways of better integrating the broadcast conference, which if anyone on this call has been on it, it's fantastic. But better ways of integrating that with the rest of the session, because we've always felt, and broadcasters have agreed, we always felt that the stuff that goes on in that conference is applicable and would be fantastic for the rest of the members. So expanding that and kind of integrating it into more of the general part or the general part of the sessions is something that they're really taking a close look at, and I think is going to be a big hit with everyone that goes to Huntsville. We're going to get some pretty awesome keynote speakers lined up. I can't reveal who yet, but I would look forward to that. I'm also looking for, I think I've got a really neat session that it's a presidential thing, the session I'm going to run, a special session, where I am looking for pairs of mentors and mentees and to be on a panel discussion, and where I'm running the panel and kind of asking questions like, so how did you guys meet, mentor and mentee? What are some of the things you guys have gotten out of the relationship? What are the things you guys have done together to advance your careers and your personal lives and that kind of thing? I think it's a fantastic way if you're someone who has a mentor and is really passionate about that mentor, and both of you can attend the annual meeting. I think that'd be a pretty good opportunity to honor that mentor, and more than just that. I mean, so that's a little selfish thing, that mentor mentee. It's in a good way. But I think this type of session would benefit the entire association that attends this by, oh, so that's how you meet a mentor, or that's what I could get out of being a mentor, or this is the kind of things that you do as mentor and mentee. I think it'd be a really enlightening discussion that we'd have, that I'm planning to do for the annual meeting. So that'll definitely be a little different than I think anything that we've done before in Huntsville. Other than that, yeah, it's going to be a fantastic annual meeting. I mean, I see such energy in the planners that meet very regularly to try and figure out how we're all going to organize this and what we're going to do while we're there, and some interesting and fun changes that we're going to make. But I promise it's going to be a fantastic experience, even if you don't attend karaoke.
Do you have a site yet, or do we know the site yet for Weatherfest this year?
That we don't know. We know we're going to have a Weatherfest, but I have not heard where it's going to be. But we will have one, yeah.
Yeah, that's always such a fun thing to go to. If you get a chance to attend an annual meeting, try to come on Saturday, because you'd be amazed by exactly how much that we roll out for that, how much fun people are having, and it's really hard not to get involved in the fun. So you're participating. You didn't even
really make it a point to get there early and check it out. So and I'm excited to learn about what the broadcasters have to offer or have to bring to the table, because again, I haven't attended a broadcast session yet, and so I'm really excited to learn from them, how how to better communicate weather information to the public and to our end users. So wanted to go back quickly to the committees, our discussion about the committees. We got another question. What are the nuts and bolts of being involved with a committee?
I would almost turn that around on you, Becca, since you are a committee chair. In fact, I think I will, just because I haven't been on a committee. I mean, obviously, I'm on the executive committee, which is part of the board, but it functions very differently than like a professional development committee, a remote sensing committee. So, Becca, if you don't mind, I'll pass that one to you since you're a chair.
Oh, great. And Trevor, you're going to be on the hook for this too, because you are part of the committee as well.
I will unmute myself.
So being a part of a committee, you know, we have a number of different committees in the NWA that focus on various aspects of not just weather, but, you know, for me, it's professional development committees is the one I'm a part of. And so, you know, we as a group, we as a committee, I have, I think, 13 members now. We look for opportunities to share ways to enhance your professional development, or enhance your skill set, or enhance your knowledge of mentorship. You know, how do you become a mentor, that sort of thing. We run the webinar Wednesdays, coming up with ideas, hosting it, obviously, and finding speakers for that sort of thing. So in general, as a committee, we're looking to find benefits to the NWA membership as a whole, in whatever committee we serve on. So Trevor, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I actually have a lot to say about this, but I'm going to keep it, and we'll try to keep it in like one little answer here for you. And I got to speak for Morgan, since she's the chair of the social media committee now. But when you're joining to be a member, the nuts and bolts of it, as Michael was asking here, is you're going to be participating. Activity is the major thing. You don't get on a committee, get on a call, and then that's the end of that. Activity is really what we're looking for. And that's really how you pay it forward. That's the way that you can contribute to the NWA to make it better. So through my experience being a chair over the last 3 years, is that what sets you apart from everybody else is your willingness to participate and do more than just come to a conference call. So the social media committee, I can't say highly enough of them, but they were, I'd say, half of the committee every year goes to the annual meetings, and if they don't, they participate remotely. So that's the kind of thing that any committee chair is looking for, is somebody to help them do the committee work. And so you have tons of opportunities to help out. There's plenty of work to do. We just really need committee members that are active and that would like to do more and have that responsibility. So there's literally nothing better for a committee chair than somebody who is pestering them to do more work. And once that happens, you'll find out that a committee chairship is not far behind. Having more of a central role in the NWA is something that you're going to be asked of. You're going to be relied upon, and that's the type of thing that all the committees are looking for. Each committee is going to have a different way you do it. But if it's social media, we're going to have you posting, and we're going to have you doing it often. It might be live tweeting, something like this. But there's plenty of opportunities in every committee to lend a hand. And that's what any chair will tell you, is that if you're active, we want you.
And it's such a rewarding experience to really contribute to all aspects of the National Weather Association, and on a committee, participating in the annual meeting by giving talks, for my committee, giving talks to the students on, what it takes to build your resume, or enhance your skill set, so to speak, and what classes should you really focus on to sort of, be at the top of your class, or of your, the competition is fierce these days in the meteorology community. So how do you get to the top of the list? And so there are definitely opportunities at the annual meeting to share all that, and just throughout, the year, participating in the webinars, or on the social media committee, or if you really want to pay it forward, be on the awards committee and seek out and help out with the awards process and selections. So it's just a very rewarding experience, and it can take a lot of work. So it's not just, you know, something you'll do on the side. You really, it's important to be active, like Trevor said, and but also have some fun. You know, we're all in this together, and it's a great way to meet people and spend some time with folks. So hopefully that answered the question, and I guess we'll move on, because yeah, we could talk all day about it. So a question we have for you, we're getting low on time, so we'll probably do one or two more questions, and that's about it. So what role do you see the NWA playing in relation to TV weather?
Well, I think with TV weather, obviously the prestigious SEAL program, that's going to keep going. Haven't heard of any specific changes to it, but that's a huge part of the NWA. I think something new for this year, and again, this fits Pay It Forward and includes broadcast meteorology for sure, is that we are encouraging NWA members to submit abstracts that are joint presentations. And last year in St. Louis, I saw Jeff Evans, the MIC at the Houston office. He did a tag team presentation with Frank Billingsley, who is the chief meteorologist at one of the Houston TV stations down there. Good way to pay it forward is to join a colleague and do a joint presentation. And the audience benefits from joint presentations because they're seeing either an event or a challenge or whatever it was unfold from two different perspectives. And so I think the broadcasters and the audience would learn from, you know, what the weather service side of things, and the weather service people would certainly learn a lot from how the broadcasters view these types of things. And you're building a friendship and gaining a real good colleague if you do a joint presentation together. I think that benefits everybody. So I think, so yeah, to get back to the original question for TV weather, I think broadcast meteorology is a huge part of operational meteorology in general across the enterprise, and a huge part of the National Weather Association. So I can only see that getting better with time this year with Pay It Forward and what the broadcast committee is doing. I don't have details on what they're doing, but I will say that it's a huge piece of everything the NWA does.
Yeah, we are all one weather enterprise, and there's so much to learn from each other. If you're broadcast, to learn from the private sector and public sector, and vice versa. There's a lot that private and public can learn from broadcast meteorologists. So, I'm excited to see what we'll have in store for the annual meeting. Speaking of, one more question about the annual meeting. Are we going to be involved with the U.S. Space and Rocket Center since it's down there in Huntsville? Do we have any plans to join up with them and tag team on an event or anything?
I don't know any details. I can't imagine that we wouldn't, whether it's an icebreaker or maybe even Weather Ready Fest. I don't know the details, but I have visited that before. I mean, who doesn't like space? I mean, as weather geeks, yeah, I mean, we all do. I had a picture of the Challenger space shuttle on my wall growing up. I was so fascinated with space. So even if we don't directly link with the Space and Rocket Center there, what a side trip. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I'm going to go there for sure. I don't know that I'm going to have a lot of free time, but I'm going to figure out when a good time to go so I can revisit that museum, because it is really, really cool. So that's definitely a perk of going to Huntsville in September.
Yeah, I've been to Huntsville a couple times before when I was at a neighboring office, and one of the things I was so excited to get to meet was the people from NASA Sport, people from University of Alabama Huntsville, who have an entire chase armada there, which is really cool to see. So and of course the WFO, which is co-located with the university. So hopefully there'll be opportunities for us to visit one or all of those places as well. And I believe there's actually, isn't NASA there too? There's a NASA contingent there. Well, I mean NASA Sport, but beyond that, I believe there is. And then there's the military base that's there, Arsenal or Red something. I forget the name.
No idea.
Yeah, you got it. Redstone Arsenal. Yeah.
Redstone Arsenal. That's right. Yeah. So, which is awesome, because that might mean that we have a military contingent that's able to be in participation. NASA Sport, of course, which every time they do a presentation, it's awesome. And then University of Alabama Huntsville. So I'm looking forward to having this multi-background place to have a meeting with all the different perspectives.
Yeah, it's going to be a great place to have an annual meeting, in my opinion. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, we'll wrap it up here. I just have one final question.
Okay.
But first, you said something in your newsletter article that really spoke to me. You know, it's about paying it forward. Paying it forward means you are inspired to be the kind of person your mentor is or was to you. You know, that really speaks volumes about being a mentor and what you can contribute to the NWA membership and paying it forward. Do you have any general words of wisdom for the membership, you know, whether it be students or early career members or mid-career or end of career, you know, to pay it forward, or just in general, you know, about life or careers? Or do you have any words of wisdom you would like to share as a final thought?
Yeah, for sure. And this would go if you attend the NWA annual meeting, or just when you regularly interact with people in your profession, or at school, if you're at school. One of the things I think we all need to do, and some are better at it than others, is just getting way outside your comfort zone when you're approaching someone or talking to someone. And this is equally true of someone who is looking for a mentor or someone that could be a mentor. If you're someone who could be a mentor and you see someone, walk up to you and interact with you, don't just kind of either brush it off, engage with that person, because you never know. Maybe that person's looking for a mentor, and maybe you're the perfect fit for that person. By the same token, and also realize that person is getting out of their comfort zone by even approaching and talking to you, because we're all somewhat uncomfortable meteorologists, right? When it comes to social settings, sometimes I know I fall into that category. But on the same token, if you're looking for a mentor, it is uncomfortable. I won't lie to you. It's uncomfortable walking up to someone you don't really know, especially someone you might see as someone, important. Talking to them is not an easy thing to do, but give it a shot. You never know. And hopefully they respond, in kind. You hit it off, and all of a sudden you've got a mentor. That's kind of how it worked for me at the Warning Decision Training Division with one of my first mentors, Liz Quitone. We just got to know each other a little bit, and then pretty soon I realized, oh my gosh, she's always got the right words of wisdom. So I'm gonna develop that relationship further. I'm really gonna pick her brain on things, and then it just kind of grew from there. So I'd say, just on both sides of it, just step out of your comfort zone a little bit and put yourself out there talking to someone, especially at the NWA annual meeting. I think that's a great place to network and meet a potential mentor or mentee.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that. A lot of people don't approach others because they don't think that what they're doing is important enough, or it's big enough in order to get their attention. But you don't know that until you put yourself out there. You don't know if somebody is looking for exactly what you do. And it could be small. I use my example a lot because I didn't think that anyone cared about working for the deaf and hard of hearing. I thought it was just me. And then I found out that there's an entire state that was looking for that kind of thing. And then there was an entire group of people that are trying to solve that question just by simply saying that I'm interested in it. So you never know that. Never trivialize what it is you're working on, and simply just put it out there, because you don't know if somebody is looking for you, and you won't know that until you put you out there. So I could not agree more with your vision there, Paul.
Well said, Trevor.
Indeed. All right, well, I think we'll wrap this up. Thank you, Paul, for spending time with the NWA membership and answering questions from across the organization. And again, thank you, Trevor, for your input and your help with with setting up the webinar and whatnot.
Thank you, Becca.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, thank you.
So in the upcoming webinars, we're still a little uncertain about February, but we're certainly on board to have the Diversity Committee on tap for the March webinar. So stay tuned for details on both February and March. And everybody stay warm and have a great day. Take care.